think you have to do it every time. We're live, Bloom.
Oh,
Behind the scene discussions, we're going to have to wait on
we're
that.
turned on.
We're not
Sorry,
even
Joe.
30 minutes, 30 seconds in, and it's a sorry, Joe. It's going to be a wild one, everyone.
You got a team, here's a word to the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to football, guys.
Football. I'm living in a fantasy. Football. Got everybody mad at me. Football. Cause every game I had to win. Football. I gotta be a champion. Football. I'm living in a fantasy.
It is part 2 of the Week 13 preview here on the Audible. It is Cecil Lammey, it is Sigmund Bloom, and it is a Broncos mother blanking show. Welcome in to the program. Denver and Houston, let's get it on. In the early games, flex to an early game, Bloom. The Broncos, the hottest team in the league. They're traveling now, the beginning of a 3-game road trip. Both teams have the same record. Both teams are vying for the postseason, and both teams have concerns, honestly. Texans have an offensive tackle concern. We'll get to that in a little bit, but let's talk about the Broncos. Maybe no Jerry Jeudy. Okay. Brandon Johnson came back to practice yesterday. We'll see his status, whatever. Just put a pin in it. We know it's all about Cortland Sutton. If Russell Wilson goes through the air, it's all about Cortland Sutton, and it's all about controlling things on the ground. So from a fantasy lens, this may change, Bloom, if the Texans score, and I think the Texans are going to score a lot.
Yeah.
So that can change things. But as of right now, Broncos offense is pretty basic, which means fantasy-wise, you may not be relying on them. But again, game plan. If they make Russ put his foot on the gas, what does that look like?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things we start with here is this offense is going to be very game script sensitive, and there's going to be potentially a reveal, as you've been telling us all season. Sean Payton doesn't necessarily trust Russell Wilson to run the full Sean Payton offense, but he might have to trust Russell Wilson to do some Russell Wilson things if CJ Stroud's doing CJ Stroud things. And I think Cortland Sutton, because of the possibility that 6 teams on bye, he's in your lineup. Javonte Williams, the neck issue, was just a blip or something that could be material?
Well, it's a blip for now, but I still think Samaje makes this a 50-50 thing by the end of the year.
Yeah, so either way, P. Ryan's interesting. And again, if you think that Denver's going to have to go into a more aggressive offensive mode, get out of their comfort zone, that's more Samaje P. Ryan than Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams is like the easy chair, and they might not be able to rest in their easy chair for this one. What's fascinating to me about this season, in the 18 years we've been doing this show, has there been a more stunning in-season turnaround?
I was thinking about that. Like, have we seen this before? And I mean, we weren't doing the show at what was it? Marty Schottenheimer did it with the Chargers, right? But we weren't doing the show then because that was what, 1990. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
Anyway,
right.
But yeah, we've been doing this a long time, damn near 20 years, and we don't usually see this.
And especially because of the punctuation on, how many times do we refer back to the 40s when we say a team hasn't given up this many points since? And again, Miami could have broken the all-time record for points in an NFL game in that game if Mike McDaniel wanted to.
Yeah.
And now, wow, I guess it's time to take them seriously. There's meaningful December games for the 2023 Denver Broncos. 2 months ago, the chances of that were 0. See, the theme on the couch this week, Davis Maddox, was no matter how absurd it sounds, in the NFL, you have to allow that it's possible.
And it's possible. The Dolphins and Broncos play in the wild card. Let's get it on. And the Texans side, Noah Brown is back to practicing. This is problemous for the Broncos defense, who are poor tacklers. Okay, let's get this straight first. They're very opportunistic. The problem with CJ Stroud is you can't rattle him. Wasn't able to talk to Alex Singleton or Josie Jewell yesterday because I really wanted to ask that. Nick Benito talked on Monday. But anyway, I wanted to ask, like, how do you rattle someone who doesn't get rattled, right? It reminds me of the South Park episode or the World of Warcraft episode where he's like, how do you kill that which has no life? Like, how do you rattle that which is not rattled? Like CJ Stroud, you're not going to rattle him. You're not going to pressure him. The running back thing is interesting because if they want to, they can run all day. The problem with teams like Minnesota and Cleveland and losing games to the Denver Broncos is they didn't have the persistence to stay with the rushing attack. The Texans just might, but they also have a load of weapons. Or watch to see what happens with Tank Dell this week. But we know Noah Brown's back to practicing. So CJ Stroud, full array of weapons, a tight end that could be problematic for this team, 2 running backs that the Broncos can't stop. They're not good at stopping the run. Teams just go away from the run because, yay, football. I think the Texans, I love D'Amico. Love him. Yeah, this is going to be a good one down in Houston.
Yeah, it will be. And a lot of questions, like you said. Devin Singletary probably should be in your lineup. At least he got all those receptions last week. You would hope they would watch the tape last week and say, yeah, let's let Devin Singletary get on track. And like you said, Cease, attack the weakness. Don't so much emphasize your strength, but attack the weakness. No Brown back probably should be in the lineup. You would expect Patrick Surtain to be on. Nico Collins, not that means you put Collins on your bench. Only takes one play. And if Tank Dell's out there, he's going to be in the lineup. Obviously, we're going to watch this situation with Brevin Jordan and Dalton Schultz. I want something. I'm looking for something out of the Texans beats about what happened in the fourth quarter, that they went with a lot more Brevin Jordan, but know that Brevin Jordan's been hurt. Maybe this regime actually liked Brevin Jordan. He's only 23 years old. And if this is just something to watch. I don't think I'm confident in either of them. I think Jordan is someone you might want to have on your bench in deeper leagues to see what happens down the stretch, because he's attached to a good quarterback and a good offense. I do want to say, you mentioned CJ Stroud and how he's not rattled. I was digging around a little bit, and I was reading an article that was written, I think it was Ross Dellinger wrote about him, if I'm getting the name right, around the time that he was coming out of Ohio State. And other people might have heard the story. I talked about this on the couch real quick yesterday. His father went to prison and he was like a teenager, and his family lived in an apartment above a storage unit. That's pressure, That's actual
real,
pressure.
That's real.
And one of the quotes in the article was, he didn't have a private quarterback coach. He didn't have 7-on-7 teams. He didn't have all the clothes and shoes. He did it all himself.
You love it, man. You absolutely
you
love
root
it
for him.
Yeah, for sure. And you'll be rooting for him in your fantasy lineup. Now, Bloom, I've got sunglasses on, so I want to make sure I get this right. Carolina. Give me my damn handwriting because the Rams are the next game. But let's talk about Carolina and Tampa Bay up, and it just doesn't matter. I always think it's funny when I'm doing the Football Guys newsletter every day. Me and Sigmund Bloom and Joe Bryant put it together for you. Check it out. And the Panthers news comes up, and I so tempted. I want to type like, it doesn't matter. Adam Thielen's taking Wednesday. It doesn't matter. Like, whatever. Panthers, like, okay, against the Bucks, licking their chops at home. Not really relying on Panthers this week.
No, probably not. This is, well, I will say this. You had the Raiders bounce back with Antonio Pierce, maybe bounce back because Ding Dong, the witch is dead. Josh McDaniels wasn't there anymore. I don't think Frank Reich was the witch. It wasn't like everyone was under the thumb of Frank Reich, and now whenever you remove him, things are going to be freer. But maybe something could happen here. Chris Tabor is the interim head coach, special teams coordinator. He survived the Matt Rule firing, actually. He was part of the Matt Rule staff last year. Yeah. He coached a game whenever Matt Nagy had COVID. So he's coached a game before. Thomas Brown's going to call plays, but we had that weird stuff when he was calling plays and then he wasn't calling plays earlier this year. Maybe he just feels free to, let it fly now. Who cares? Probably not going to survive next year anyway. For fantasy, Chuba Hubbard's warm. 6 teams on bye. You're probably maybe playing him as a flex, see if he continues to be the lead back. Thielen, you give one more chance in your lineup this week. Maybe Jonathan Mingo, you give a chance in your lineup. Is he starting to trend up? Maybe this, again, you're looking to the future here. I don't know what that future is going to be. Most importantly, you want to get some momentum for Bryce Young going, something, but figure out Thomas Brown, figure out what he's comfortable doing and do that, because confidence is what it's about. This team doesn't have any confidence. This quarterback doesn't have any confidence, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have Mr. Confidence, Baker Mayfield.
Baker the baby maker out there, and it seems like his injury is minor, so he's out there for this team this week. All right, rinse, repeat. Bunch of Mike Evans, maybe a little bit of Chris Godwin. What the hell's going on with the injury report and Rachaad White? I'm still pissed about that last week. Dude, this is our job. We do this. And when somebody is, oh my God, they're doubtful on Saturday or whatever, it's like, what? And then they play and have 100 yards. Whatever, Tampa. We already know what this team can do. And at home, again, licking their chops against a wounded opponent. Yeah, Tampa week.
Yeah, and they're still in it. They're still very much in the divisional race. And so this is a game that they have to win to stay in that race. Like you said, for fantasy, there's not a lot of wrinkles here. Evans is in your lineup. Rachaad White's in your lineup. Chris Godwin, maybe, depending on how deep you have to go. Cade Otton, maybe, depending on if your tight end's on bye. Not necessarily a ceiling game for Baker Mayfield if you're looking at filling in for Josh Allen, etc. Simply because teams don't pass a lot against Carolina because they don't need to. So again, maybe that might point to Rachaad White coming off of his first 100-yard game this year. And yeah, hot NFC South action. That's why you got to wear the sunglasses, Cecil. So
exactly. So bright. That's for sure. Now it's Cleveland and the LA Rams. And what was funny in the media room yesterday, Nick Kosmider from The Athletic. Shout out Nick, like one of the good dudes, like really good dudes in NFL media. Nice shoe game too, Bloom. More than just Jordans like me, but him and I always talk shoes. Got the Spider-Man ones. He wore them, and I was like, dude, those are like $1,500 shoes. What are you doing?
Well, why wouldn't you wear them? Did you see the thing with Mike McDaniel and the zip tie or whatever it is?
Yeah.
On his, people saying, why did he leave them on? You don't know anything about why did he leave it on? You're going to lose $3,000 in value if you cut that zip tie off.
Exactly. Leave that Flight Club sticker on. Anyway, StockX, whatever. Browns are going to start Joe Flacco. So Nick Kosmider, I'm sitting there in the media room, and Nick Kosmider goes, oh my God. Oh my God. Like Joe Flacco's going to play.
Yeah.
Is Joe Flacco going to play for the Browns? And what disaster could they be looking at on the road against the Rams this week?
Yeah. First, I warned you before the show, Cease.
Yeah, you
this
did.
stuff's fascinating to me. There's going to be a history lesson.
Warning me.
There's going to be look, Cleveland and the Rams only play basically once every 4 years. But the funny thing is there was a time that Cleveland versus the Rams didn't make any sense. Remember, the Rams franchise started out in Cleveland. And it's quite an actually interesting history. I got all this stuff from Wikipedia as I was prepping for the show. It's fascinating stuff. I find it fascinating. I hope other people do. First of all, they were named for the Fordham Rams. So if you want to know where the Rams name came from, Fordham was actually a college football powerhouse back in the 30s. So they named it after the Fordham Rams. They joined the AFL. They were potentially going to host the first title game. They were 5-2-2. They were the second place team, but they were going to play the Boston Shamrocks, and Boston had some players that were unpaid, and they said, no, I'm not playing in any championship game. So even back, well, especially back in the 30s, labor, you know.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
Aldo Donnelly, one of the Pittsburgh cradle of coaches, he coached this team. He's the only person that ever played in a soccer World Cup football overseas and coached an NFL team. And he actually coached Duquesne, University of Duquesne, and the Steelers at the same time. When Duquesne was having classes, he would coach the Steelers in the morning, and then he would go coach Duquesne. He was the only one that's ever coached a college team and a pro team at the same time. In 1945, they won the championship. Was Waterfield to Benton, 303 yards receiving on Thanksgiving. That record stood for 40 years. Stephon Page broke it. 40 years. Waterfield was actually married to Jane Russell, superstar, Hollywood superstar, kind of foreshadowing that they moved to L.A., and they moved to LA because Cleveland had a new team in the AAFC, coached by Paul Brown, the beloved Paul Brown of Ohio State. So they were like, we can't compete with Paul Brown in Cleveland. We're going to move to LA. And the newspapers were on strike, so nobody cared. There wasn't even an outrage or anything. People love Paul Brown anyway. Nobody cared about the championship either because the newspapers were on strike. Isn't it fascinating, Cease, that a newspaper strike had that much effect on public opinion back in 1945? So they move out to LA. And because they're going to play in the LA Coliseum, the people that own the LA Coliseum said as a condition of renting the LA Coliseum to play, they had to reintegrate the team. They had to allow African-American players to play. And notice I said reintegrate. So that was the first team. That was the predicate for reintegrating the NFL. was the Rams, the Cleveland Rams, moving out to Los Angeles. And they were the first major professional team to move to the West Coast. So they led the way. And last thing I'll add here is that Fred Gerke, who played for them, because the morale was down, he made up a logo and painted it on the helmet in 1948. The first team ever to have helmets painted with a logo was the Rams. So a lot of history, Cleveland Rams. Why we talk about this? Yeah, because otherwise we have to talk about Joe Flacco.
Because Joe Flacco's playing.
Yeah, you're right. It's fascinating stuff. I mean, when you go far enough back and see the butterfly wings, that lead to some of these ripples. Kareem Hunt's banged up, so Jerome Ford should be in your lineup. David Njoku should be in your lineup. Amari Cooper's banged up. Cedric Tillman probably shouldn't be in your lineup, but you got a dynasty watch here. Elijah Moore probably shouldn't be in your lineup, but he could be someone who steps up. This is a Cleveland team that's been tough to figure out all year on offense and on defense. And right now, they're the team with less momentum as the Rams, the Los Angeles Rams, are back in the hunt.
Kyron Williams. That's all you need. That's all you need, Bloom. And then, we're watching the injury status because Puka Nacua has been a little banged up. Cooper Kupp's been banged up. Okay. And then do they continue on with Tyler Higbee? Okay, let's talk about the Rams and Kyron Williams.
Yeah, and Stafford's hot. Cleveland defense is not. Myles Garrett is hurting, so we'll see how much that affects this whole defense. Stafford is, quarterback 2 super flex, maybe in a pinch you're fill-in here as we're not as scared of Cleveland's defense. Kyron, league winner. Wow. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. Hey, it's a good problem if you're asking, should I play them this week? With 6 teams on bye, if you're like, I got an option that looks almost as good as them. Cooper Kupp, we're wondering if he's really going to be healthy. He did practice in full. Puka Nacua, neither of them did much last week. Remember, it was Higbee scoring the touchdowns, Atwell leading the team in receiving yards. Not going to play either of them. But I think Kupp and Nacua, if you're on the fence, you probably play them just because you know what their ceiling is, and you know that this Cleveland team, this Cleveland offense is staggered. And again, this Rams team is now back in the playoff hunt.
Okay. History lessons aside,
Over.
49ers,
Yeah.
Philadelphia. 49ers, Philadelphia. The whole damn show should be about this game and a little Broncos Texans.
Right.
Like, if we talk about interesting, what's going to happen? This, my friends, is interesting. The 49ers against the Eagles. Can the playoffs just hurry up and get here?
Well, this is the playoff.
Fantasy playoffs. And then this supply, and then this, like this. I want to see this. And honestly, I want to see how much Kyle hides. Because, I'm sure that Kyle Shanahan will have a thing or two up his sleeve that he will not debut in this game. We'll try to beat them like they normally beat them. And they already have enough things up their sleeve, Bloom. It's like a magic trick. Watching a magician out there, Kyle Shanahan, running that offense or having Brock Purdy run it for him. So, 49ers side, we already know the names. It's a nice thing about week 13. Like we know, I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. I figured it out. But what kind of success can all the normal assets that you use from the 49ers have against the Eagles on the road? Our man Jason Wood screaming his head off at this game.
Yeah. Wow. And this is fun. This is fun because there's bad blood. Do you remember how much bad blood there was in the NFC title game last year?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of hurt feelings in addition to Brock Purdy's hurt elbow in that game. So wow. And again, these teams are on a collision course to meet. Dallas might have something to say about that. Maybe Detroit can play spoiler, but they're on a collision course. Okay. We have haves and have-nots in the NFC. These are the haves. So get out your popcorn. As you said, Cease, in some games like this, when you say, well, these teams are going to meet again, maybe in a couple month and a half, whatever. So you don't want to show them everything. But that's the beauty of the Kyle Shanahan offense. There's nothing to hide. It's really based on how the defense plays these plays and reacts to the motions and shifts and play action, and that Brock Purdy makes the right decision. He usually makes the right decision. So you can prepare for San Francisco, but if Brock Purdy makes the right decision, also, by the way, is there a better quartet in the NFL than Ayuk, Samuel, Kittle, and McCaffrey? And they're all basically healthy as you can hope for in week 13. So Philadelphia. By the way, Philadelphia's defense, not the strength of the team. All right. Philadelphia's defense, I think, has to be a bend but don't break defense, come up with key stops, hang on for dear life, and hope that, as usual, Jalen Hurts figures out a way to save them.
Yeah, we'll figure out how Hurts does it, and well, how can he do it? Because it's a number of ways, right? We know no Dallas Goedert in this. So does that just mean more Devontae Smith, the Slim Reaper out there against the 49ers, and just more of Hurts using his legs, right? What will we see from Philadelphia again at home against a tough opponent?
And remember this, by the way, after this game, when Philadelphia ran all over San Francisco, terrible tackling, just lost their focus. You could tell the team just lost their focus in this game. And what did they do? They went out and signed Javon Hargrave, right? I mean, the result of the NFC title game directly led to Hargrave going west. So what about this time around? Now, this time around, the Eagles' offense isn't a run-based offense. Maybe it is for this game. Maybe you test them, or maybe you say, concede to you that you've made the moves to stop the run and maybe put even more on Jalen Hurts' plate. I don't know. DeAndre Swift, again, he's in your lineup. For fantasy, there's not a lot of intrigue here. He's probably at least a running back too. But does that move change the dynamic whenever Philly has the ball? Travarius Ward's pretty good. He's probably going to be on A.J. Brown. He's been quiet. Like you said, is it Devontae Smith? And is it, well, geez, who else is it? Because I don't think Dallas Goedert's ready to play yet. Didn't practice on Wednesday. And again, you're thinking about playoffs, okay? You don't risk a problem with Dallas Goedert's arm because it isn't fully healed to try to win this game. You save him for the playoffs. Lammey Zacchaeus, who caught that desperation pass from Jalen Hurts last week for a touchdown. Quez Watkins, who's back. I mean, who else if it's not Brown? Swift out of the backfield, Kenneth Gainwell maybe playing an outsized role. I'm not sure. This is not an offense that has a lot of counterpunch. It just has Jalen Hurts in a Superman cape, and that was good enough to win last week against Buffalo.
Yeah, sometimes that will just get it done. What else can get it done for your fantasy team is footballguys.com. We appreciate you all for coming out. So help us out and grow the YouTube channel. Like and comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. And if you're in the chat room, make sure to comment down below because that's what the algorithm really loves. The all-important YouTube algorithm. We, glorify YouTube. We love you, YouTube. So also we love you. You want to support the show. We don't do any silly super chats. I always just laugh when I see those. Bloom, anyway, I will save my rant for another time. You say something interesting on the chat room, I'll put it up on the screen.
Right.
So yeah, don't do any silly super chats. But if you'd like to support the show, and we really appreciate that, by the way, when people are like, how do I support the show? Footballguys.com. Check us out. We got a free daily newsletter that's written by me and Sigmund and Joe Bryant. That is a hell of a trio, Joe. I'm going to keep saying it. Anyway, Kansas City and the Green Bay Packers. This one, Green Bay made this more interesting because of what they did last week. We'll get to the Green Bay side in a little bit, okay? And they've still got their concerns, but emerging players for the Packers. Are the Chiefs figuring it out? Rashee Rice, can you be a little more consistent? Can they go to someone not named Travis Kelce? Can they use Isaiah Pacheco more? Does Clyde Edwards-Helaire become a what-the-heck flex? So there's questions with Kansas City traveling to the probably not yet frozen, kind of frozen tundra, half frozen, half thawed. Yes. Either way, what do the Chiefs do this week on the road against Green Bay?
The offense came out of their slumber last week in the second half against the Raiders, so you hope that carries over to Sunday night. But you're more confident in Patrick Mahomes. There was a time, maybe he's recently last week, because you said, well, if I have Stroud or I have Trevor Lawrence, if I have other quarterbacks, maybe even like a Kyler Murray or Justin Fields. But now you're feeling better about Patrick Mahomes. You're feeling great about Isaiah Pacheco. We're going to watch Jerick McKinnon, who I think didn't practice first practice of the week. So Pacheco, Rashee Rice, I would not feel free to bench him coming off of his best game of the year. And that's kind of the concentration of the offense at this point, along with Kelce. It's not quite triplets, but it is the best faces of this offense at this point. And I think what's interesting about this game for Kansas City, Cease, is that as we saw last week, depending on what time you tuned in, there was a different number one seed in the AFC, right? It was Jacksonville, then it was Kansas City, then it was Baltimore. So if Kansas City wants to host the AFC title game for the sixth straight season, wow, no margin of error. You can't lose. Really, you can't lose again if you want to expect to be the number 1 seed. So that's what's on the line for Kansas City. And what's on the line for Green Bay is, again, it's the NFC, so they have a chance to make the playoffs.
I wish Brett Veach had a little more Howie Roseman in him, because I do love Howie Roseman, but I really appreciate Brett Veach.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you knew your deficiencies. Why don't you make a move, baby? If that was Roseman, he'd have been like, who's what? Wide receiver where? Huh? Trade? It's like the what is it, the seagulls in Finding Nemo? Like mine.
Right. That being
Packers
said,
side.
since you,
Yeah, go. Yes.
you opened it up, but here's the thing: how many times have we said, "Well, they traded away Tyreek Hill. That's going to be the downfall." Oh, they let Orlando Brown go. That's going to be the downfall, right? I mean, so Brett Veach, I think at this point we have to just defer to him and say he has more insight into how his team performs than we do, because he hasn't made any of those dramatic moves during the season. He did make some dramatic moves in the off season, maybe not ones we agreed with, but here they are.
Yeah, here we are. And here we go with the Packers. Aaron Jones. Just one of those years, right? Mama said, Bloom. Mama said, one of those years. And with Aaron Jones, it's like, oh, he's just not going to play. It's going to be A.J. Dillon, whatever. Now, Jaden Reed. Concurrent emergence of Jordan Love along with Jaden Reed. Okay. Is Christian Watson actually becoming a thing? You were wrong about Christian Watson. Fine. Go. Make plays. I still love Romeo. Anyway, let's talk about the Packers emerging and who exactly is helping Jordan Love maybe round the corner.
Yeah, this is one we're going to have to really watch the practice reports here, because I don't think we're going to see Aaron Jones. A.J. Dillon is banged up. Jaden Reed's actually banged up. I know they're both going to be in your lineup if we have assurances this is a Sunday night game. So as long as we know they're not game time decisions, they're probably going to be in your lineup. We may see Patrick Taylor get a lot of work here. And then I think because of this, and Jontavian Wicks is still banged up, not sure if he's going to play. I think Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson probably become solid plays, again, with 6 teams on bye. And I think if there's the comeback turnaround of the year, if it wasn't for the Broncos, would be Jordan Love. And I guess I'm out here. See, do you remember Highlights Magazine? Do you remember the Highlights Magazine when they go to like the pediatrician when you were a kid or something?
I remember High Times Magazine. That was not at the pediatrician, by the way.
I remember finding my uncle's stash of the old. Anyway, High Times Magazine. Sorry, Joe. The magazine.
Yes,
the magazine.
Yes, the magazine's Joe.
There was Highlights had Goofus and Gallant. There was like Goofus does this, but Gallant, his brother, does this. Try to teach.
That sounds like a Mr. Bungle from
right.
Herman.
Right. So I'm Goofus up here reacting to everything every week, but Gallant is saying, give it time, because we've said, well, Jordan Love's not the answer. We know that, right? We figured that out. Jordan Love's not the answer. But if Jordan Love continues to win games, if Jordan Love can beat the Chiefs, if Jordan Love can take this team to the playoffs, it's kind of like Daniel Jones last year. Well, I guess it is. I don't know for sure, but I know the team's going to go forward with him as assuming he's the answer. So that's what's on the line here for Jordan Love, not just this week, but going forward. That being said, Jordan Love has turned the season around against Detroit and the Chargers. Kansas City's defense, a lot tougher than Detroit and the Chargers.
Problemous, by the way, Bloom, because Andrew in the chat room, I'm going to talk about the dude, right? He says he has that shirt.
Yeah,
so Bloom, please tell everyone the story of that shirt.
I told him, I'm just, it's November 30th. It's my mother, Tony McClay. That's my middle name. That's what we do to my family. The males get the maiden name of the mother. Tony McClay, Tony Bloom, Tony Albert, Tony Belsky. Yeah, she would say, hey, at least I found 4 men who would marry me. It's her birthday. She joined the Ancestors. She transitioned in 2012. This is a shirt that she gave me. I kept it even though it's too big. So yeah, happy birthday, Mom.
What kind of gin is that?
Bathtub gin. This is one of those fish shirts.
Okay.
This is one of those fish shirts where they secretly put in a fish song title in a very recognizable corporate logo. And that's, I think, the really Grateful Dead fans started that. It's really pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty damn cool. We got 1 game left. It's not that great. It would have been Joe Burrow. I love him. He's not going to play. So it is Cincinnati and it is Jacksonville, Bloom. Let's talk about this one, get it out the way so we can talk about what the heck flex. Bengals side first. And what's very interesting, and when a coaching staff says this, Bloom, I will just toss this one to you. What does it mean when a coach says we have to figure out like the future of Chase Brown? Like we're going to see more of Chase Brown going forward. Basically telling you, is this guy the Mixon replacement or not?
Mm-hmm.
Is this going to be a thing? Is it going to be fantasy relevant? Jake Browning's in, okay? Jacksonville's probably going to trounce him. So is it the time for them, wisely, by the way, to just say, okay, who's some of our young guys we need to feature? Can Chase Brown be the dude going forward? And is that like a tip? Is that now, should we revert to the waiver wire form and be like, zip, get back, go on Chase Brown, get you 1%, Chase Brown, like
1%.
I don't know. They're saying it. Watch what they do, not what they say, but they're saying it. So I'm paying attention.
Yeah. And I think that what this indicates, the good thing, if there is a good thing, the silver lining of Joe Burrow's injury is that now you're in evaluation mode, right? So Chase Brown, absolutely a player to evaluate. And maybe this would make us back off of Joe Mixon if last week's result didn't make us back off of Joe Mixon. Although, again, if they're playing from behind, well, sure. I mean, hey, evaluate Chase Brown in the 2-minute drill. Evaluate Chase Brown as a pass blocker, right? Why not? Even if it's bad, that's how you learn as going into the next season. And the priorities, remember, Joe Mixon wasn't even a sure thing to be on this team this year. So for fantasy, again, it gives you some hesitation to play Mixon. 6 teams on bye, you might have to. Probably you're going to play Jamar Chase. Remember that almost half of his yards last week, I don't know if it's almost 31 out of 80 something, came on a deflected ball. Michael Walker dropping into coverage that the defense had to react to the deflection. So Chase was able to get a long catch and run out of it. So if he's a disappointment, we're getting fact finding. Dare I say, would we bench Jamar Chase during the playoffs? Well, if he only has 3 for 30 in this game and 3 for 30 next week, you might. Is Higgins going to even play? Is he going to play this week? I don't know. He's going into free agency. He's probably not coming back to the Bengals. So he even going to play? Speaking of evaluation, Cecil, Andre Iosivas, Charlie Jones, Tyler Boyd's going to be free agent next year. So they're telling us about Chase Brown, but by the same logic, some more draft picks, Iosivas and Jones should be getting played. So for your deep dynasty leagues, next week, buy low, sell high is about stashes for the offseason. We're going to start getting some clues on Monday night.
Well, and that's why, one, you got to play dynasty first and foremost, and an auction league with a salary cap and a practice squad. Anyway, during the month of December is when you learn the most in dynasty. Do I mention Willie Parker again?
Week 17. Remember Willie Parker?
Yep. Oh, yeah. We've seen this before. We'll see it again. Actually, I was talking about Willie Parker with a former Steelers employee, Bloom, yesterday.
Yeah.
So shout out Willie Parker. I think he's
you remember this? What is he doing?
Him and Torrey Holt, I think, are some high school coach. They're
that
coaching
sounds right.
high
Well, it's
school
funny.
together, something like that.
That's gonna come full circle. Torrey Holt is one of the semifinalists for the Hall of Fame again. Tough to get in the Hall of Fame as a wide receiver. So that actually ties into what I was going to ask you. Do you remember how it came to be that Willie Parker ended up on the Steelers roster?
Because I remembered it at one point.
Yeah, it was because one of the Rooneys saw him in high school.
Yes, right.
Saw him play in high school and said, that guy, yeah, I remember him. So yeah, high school football, like coaching it, going to watch it can help.
Yeah, there you go. We got to talk about Jacksonville. We got to talk about Dearness Johnson is what the heck flex? Yeah, maybe. But they'll be able to do whatever they want. Put on a show for the home crowd. Come on, Tony. I'm talking about Tony Khan, who is all of our friends. One of the good guys, by the way.
Yeah.
If we talk about like NFL upper tier executives, not many of those guys are as cool and as good natured as Tony Khan. Actually
open to suggestions and listens to people.
Yes. Doesn't think he knows everything. Dave Tepper. So, Jacksonville side, start them all, collect them all.
Yeah, I think so. Again, Zay Jones unlocking things. Travis Etienne has that chest issue. If he's active, you're going to play him. We're going to see by Sunday morning, what do we know? Dearness Johnson, if there's a question, Dearness Johnson, remember, why is it always we talk about D Brown? Why do we always talk about these running backs in the fantasy playoffs that we didn't talk about all season? Because they're fresh, because they haven't been taking all this punishment. Dearness Johnson, we know, is a pretty solid running back, much better than Tank Bigsby. Ridley's in your lineup. Kirk's in your lineup. Evan Ingram, same as always, you're going to get your 8 or 9 or 10 points in PPR leagues. And Trevor Lawrence has had 2 great weeks back to back, probably a third. And I guess we'll know by the time this game is played whether is it really the Steelers' offense bounced back because of no Matt Canada, or is it just that Cincinnati is in, look to next year mode. So that is another reason to play Trevor Lawrence in this one. And again, this team, they're going to play Baltimore in a few weeks. That game might be for the number 1 seed. So they are still very much, by beating Houston last week, they are still very much not just controlling their division now, but maybe they have a chance to have the road to the Super Bowl go through Jacksonville.
Nick D in the chat room with the greatest hair of all time. Notice about guys with long hair, Bloom, like us. We always admire everyone else that has the long hair. Be like, yes, yes. But don't say Tepper 3 times. That's how you summon him. I would not want that guy. Like that's one of those dudes. Like you just get that weird vibe. Like I'm not gonna hang out with that guy. Like I don't care how much money he's throwing around. Like stay away from me, dude. You're weird. Allegedly, or whatever I have to say. Like seriously. Like I don't want to go down there.
You're really gonna get us demonetized, Cecil.
Exactly. YouTube's like, with Dave Tepper sponsors us. Like no money for you. Your 6 pence has been taken away. But like. Okay, let's get into our ever popular what the heck flex. You're looking over your lineup. You need some punch, and that's why you just throw your hands in the air. We got 6 teams on by. I got to make the playoffs. Who are some of your week 13 what the heck flexes? Oh, wait, I'm asking myself. Royce Freeman, what the heck flex? Yeah, that's right. Against the Browns. Could see Kyron Williams be off the field in the 4th quarter because he's done enough in 3 quarters. There is Royce Freeman. I talked about Dearness Johnson as a what the heck flex. Talk about Rico Dowdle tonight. We're recording Thursday morning, in case you're listening. Jeff Wilson, a what the heck flex there with the Miami Dolphins. So put a pin in that and continue on to the wide receiver position in week 13. Some ever popular what the heck flexes. I think Jerry Jeudy could do something if he plays now. Put a pin in that. But someone not named Cortland Sutton might be asked to do a little bit more because they'll have to. I still love A.T. Perry as a what the heck flex. Tonight, again, Jackson Smith and Jigba. What the heck flex for the Seattle Seahawks. There's always Rondale Moore with that explosiveness. And, we're just talking about Jacksonville. So Zay Jones is that ever popular what the heck flex. And I'll say this about the Jerry Jeudy tip with the hip/groin injury, Bloom. Marvin Mims will Wally Pip him. So if Mims gets finally featured, and he's been playing more snaps offensively, but they're not passing very much. But if they have to pass against Houston and Marvin Mims explodes like Mims can, he'll Wally Pip him. Jeudy won't get his job back. Mims is that good. We're just kind of waiting. So as a crazy, forgot to set my lineup, what the heck flex, I'll put a pin in Marvin Mims Jr. Bloom. Who are some of your ever popular what the heck flexes?
What the heck? And by the way, Cease, I have long hair because when I was young, my mom wanted me to have long hair. So that's why I have long hair.
Nice.
Yeah, it all ties together, right? Samaje P. we talked about, we're going to see if Devin Achane's going to play. Maybe even if Devin Achane plays, Jeff Wilson is a what the heck flex, because if this game gets out of hand, you don't want to risk Achane and his knee. Tajay Spears, who had a good game the first time around against Indianapolis. Dearness Johnson, we talked about. Antonio Gibson's interesting because when Sam Howell faced a team with good outside corners in Seattle, he threw a ton to the running backs, including I think 5 or 6 catches for Gibson, including a touchdown. So Antonio Gibson's interesting here. Wide receiver, stay with those Cardinals and Greg Dortch. Josh Downs, if you forgot about him against Tennessee, he got 13 targets last week, only caught 5 of them. Jalen Guyton is interesting simply because who else, if Keenan Allen's taken away, we talked about this in part 1 of the preview, if the Belichick defense takes away Keenan Allen, makes it hard for Justin Herbert to throw to Keenan Allen. Who's he going to throw to? I would guess Jalen Guyton. Although Quentin Johnston practiced yesterday, Cease. It wasn't an injury that took him out of the game, but he's able to practice on Wednesday. Kurt Samuel, Jahan Dotson again on the Washington game. Short passes, high percentage passes, or Sam Howell's going to throw 3 or 4 interceptions. He might anyway. Jamison Williams with Marshawn Lattimore likely out against New Orleans. Jonathan Mingo, new play caller, new era. Well, a very short interim new era in Carolina. And yeah, it's week 13. Down to the nitty gritty.
Go make that run and make it happen. We will be here for you. We got a little time, Bloom. We got a little time. Jimmy asked who's the quarterback for the Vikings out of the bye.
Mullins.
If Kevin O'Connell's already saying I was thinking about benching him, like, yeah.
I mean, and people should always remember that. One thing about being an NFL head coach is you have to choose your words carefully. You know that everything you say is going to be parsed. It's going to be twisted. It's going to be magnified and amplified. So you say these things to get people ready for what's coming. And yeah, I think it is going to be Nick Mullins, which could be interesting because Justin Jefferson's going to be back. So in your 2 quarterback super flex leagues, you should make sure he's on a roster. Make sure Malik Cunningham, Joe Flacco. Exciting times in 2 quarterback superflex leagues.
And that's why I give Sean Payton grief, because he's tyrannical, but the media is not your friend. Okay, because they will take that. Like, I was thinking about benching him because you think you're being chummy or buddy. It's like, you say something like that, media's going to take it and run with it and be like, he was thinking about benching him. So be very, very careful. Roberto says, any advice appreciated. Need to flex Lockett, Reed, Curtis Samuel, Cooks. I don't think we talked about Samuel enough, Bloom. And Cooks is always dangerous for me, but if I'm coming around on Brandon Cooks, then I don't know, maybe I'm totally wrong.
Yeah, I mean, and this is one of those things where, well, first of all, I guess I haven't said this yet this year, okay? If it's week 13 and you're still in the playoff hunt, then first trust yourself, because and look, even if you got this far because of who you trusted, that's still your judgment, okay? So trust yourself first and foremost. But I think if we look at this, it's hard to forecast anybody in the Seattle offense having a ceiling game. So I would take Lockett out. Reed right now, I'm going to say we don't know if he's going to play, or we don't know how effective he'll be. So to be determined. So I think by process of elimination, that gets us to Cooks. I think Cooks has to be in, just because, and they had to take the foot off the gas last week after 1 half. But you can see how Cooks, even in that game, was able to be, I think, the leading receiver in yards for the team and scored a touchdown. We saw him have a 9 for 170 whatever game a few weeks ago, again in a blowout, because that's the only kind of game Dallas plays unless they're playing the Eagles or the Chargers. And then Samuel had 9 for 100 last week, and it's so hard to know with Sam Howell, except you know he's going to throw the ball a lot.
Right.
And you know against Miami, he's probably not going to target Xavier and Howard and Jalen Ramsey too often. And he's probably not going to have a lot of time to throw. They just lost Jalen Phillips to an Achilles. Man,
yeah,
not a lot of ink, pixels, whatever about Jalen Phillips. He was one of the breakout players of the year. I mean, the breakout players of the year.
And Mark Schlereth was talking about him this morning. I mean, if you watch film, you know this kid can play.
Oh, yeah, a monster out there, but now not until next year. So that'll help a little bit with the pass rush. So, yeah, I think that it's right now it's Samuel and Cooks, and I think Cooks stays in. And if you get really excited about Jaden Reed, and he practices in full by Friday, you may put him in over Samuel. I'd probably still be inclined to leave Samuel in if it's a PPR.
Yeah, that's right. Steve says, how many games does Aaron Rodgers play this year, Bloom? It's 0. It's 0. I mean, you talk about reckless. Oh, what did I'll quote Yoda, like, you are reckless. Whatever's going to happen with Nathaniel Hackett, who is just terrible. Okay. Clown show, absolute clown show. You're talking about the Jets offensive coordinator, Billy Turner, who's his best friend, who like defend him to the end. Billy Turner can't play anymore. Sorry. So again, the truth is belligerent to those who are ignorant. Like, I'm not saying anything that's untrue, and I'm not being personal. Nathaniel Hackett is not good at his job. So like all the guys Aaron Rodgers wanted, none of them are working out pretty much. Maybe I'm missing somebody, Bloom, but like the Rodgers pushing a play thing, dude, just eat your mushrooms. All right. Hang out with Jake Plummer, which, by the way, Jake Plummer is like the coolest guy in the world. Okay. In the world, on the planet, Jake Plummer. So go eat your mushrooms, hang out, rehab for next year, make a run. But this Rodgers pushing a play thing, I don't have a lot good to say about it, Bloom, because it's just foolish. It's foolish.
Yeah, I think Davis put it well yesterday on the couch when he said, this is to create a sense that, hey, Aaron Rodgers is going to play for his team and he's ready and he's putting it all on the line. And then the Jets are going to be out of the playoffs. And he'll say, well, it doesn't make sense for me to play, but I was ready to if they needed me.
Exactly. Yeah. I could, makes me look good, right? No, Jimmy, not yet. Steve also asks, would I go to a musical theater with Lauren Boebert?
Sorry, Joe. Don't look
Sorry,
it up.
Joe.
Don't.
Steve, don't look it up. Steve, who says I already haven't been there.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, what else we got? What else we got, Bloom? What's new, guys? Dynasty Commish actually dropped Pirine, accidentally dropped Pirine. And a shout out to all commissioners. Okay, like shout out to all commissioners. I think we just start and we just go and everyone goes and you don't really think about the hell you're putting your commissioner through. So our man Office Depot commish, to all the commissioners out there, tip of the cap.
Yeah, and he accidentally dropped Penny, Pirine instead of Penny. And I mean, if it was McCaffrey instead of Penny, I'd say you reverse it. If it's Pirine, yeah, he has to suck it up. You suck it up to show everybody that as a commissioner, you have integrity. There's not a lot of that in the world today, Cecil.
Integrity. Now you're gonna get me on South Park. This town needs more integrity. Integrity weed. Nick D says Jake Plummer for president. That's right. He did inhale. I think we'll wrap up today's show. Bloom, how are you? You okay? How are we doing, buddy? We good?
You know, all things considered, pretty good. You know, since you opened this up, I'll say it's kind of funny, especially as you get older, although I think a lot more people that are younger probably have this feeling. See, it's like you're driving an 18-wheeler and it's not an option for the 18-wheeler to stop. You can't stop. You can't pull over to rest stop. You can't go and sleep in the back of your cab or something like that. You have to keep it on the road, or at the very least not crash it. And hopefully you learn how to drive it and take it somewhere, you know, and feel good on the road. But right now we're on the road. There's nothing ahead, no obstacles. And, you know, I just want to say to everybody out there, because I know the difficulty of the course that I'm doing with the love of my life, Kate, and we're driving our 18-wheeler. I know there are a lot of people navigating much more difficult paths and making it. And
well, you brought up CJ Stroud. Like, that's adversity, man. That's toughness. That's pressure. Yeah. That's life pressure. Dude on the field, like, whatever. 300 pounders chasing him, whatever, dude.
Yeah. So, you know, but yeah, I mean, every time we flip these lights on and press go live, it's a wonderful feeling, wonderful place because of y'all that are listening to my voice right now. That's what you do. When people say, what can I do to support football guys? You're already supporting football guys. And it's a beautiful thing that we can have any kind of positive effect in each other's lives. And let's keep doing it.
Let's do it. What would your CB handle be if you're a trucker?
This is Sigmund fraud. Break.
Hey, you got a rooster on your tail, Sigmund. Right? Yeah. Is that what they say when the cops are chasing you?
Remember. I'm old enough to remember playing on the CB radio when we lived close enough to the freeway in San Rafael, New Mexico, that we could talk to the truckers.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the middle of the country, we'd still pick up stuff from like I-80, even though we were probably 15 miles from I-80. But yeah, so as a kid, I'd ride around the Jeep doing chores and then turn on the CB and maybe yell cuss words at people. When you're little, this is what you do. Remember prank calls? Not necessarily like
SAR-69 until SAR-69.
Until SAR-69. Nice. Yeah. You could prank call all day.
That's good.
Anyway. Yeah, that's right. All right, let's wrap up the show. Sigmund Bloom at Sigmund Bloom. I am at Cecil Lammey. Do the YouTube things and help us out. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. Follow Sigmund. Follow me if you'd like. Follow the show. We appreciate you. Stay tuned. And as always, stay frosty.